A very good morning to all our online viewers and listeners. You're most welcome to yet another session of Actim Talks. We are here every Friday between 11 up to midday. It's 1 hour where we talk nothing other than issues concerning electoral politics. And today I have two interesting guests. They're both ladies and they're both politicians. And we are discussing the cost of being a female politician in Uganda. Once again, my name is Felix Kafuma. I'll be your host, as usual, from the Alliance for Campaign Finance Monitoring. And we shall be joined shortly, by Flavia, Kalule, Nabagabe. Many of you are familiar to that name. And also Sarah Kityo. Both are accomplished politicians who will be joining us to discuss what does it mean to be a female politician in Uganda, in a society that is highly patriarchal, but also in an industry, politics, in an industry that is male-dominated. What are the costs? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? How is it possible to practice politics when you are a female? So the conversations are going to be in that direction. And we know that 2021 elections, already we've seen slightly an increased number of female politicians joining the race across board. I don't have the statistics off head, but I can tell you for sure that we have an increment in the female participation in politics. But that notwithstanding, the numbers are still significantly low across in the entire sub-Saharan Africa, where women participation in politics as candidates is still relatively very low. This is a movement that has been gaining traction on how do we increase the spaces, how do we increase the numbers, but it's not just about the numbers. How do we increase the quality of representation of women in the political arena? Already in Uganda, we have the affirmative action that has seen women given the ticket of direct women representative to be to join parliament. There are discussions whether it has been a success or not, because we've not been able to see the change in the turn-up of those who come, or those who represent that constituency, to keep seeing faces changing over and over. So there are discussions whether it has been a failed approach or a stagnant approach. Of course, there are a few of those women who have been able to muscle it out with men on the direct seat, but by and large, the challenges withstanding, women are still challenged to participate effectively in electoral politics. We've also seen over time the participation and motivations being gender specific and being genderalized, in the sense that when you look at the gender perspectives to, for example, to voter bribery, how they have kept changing. When you look at the social perspectives that define women participation over time, and now within the context of COVID, because we know these elections are not the normal elections we usually have, COVID did impact on the economically, it made people more vulnerable, including even those who would be candidates. So what are the ramifications of a COVID context elections to women participation? But the whole notion of how now campaigns are being conducted, how does that also impact or affect women participation? When you talk about violence, for example, in this case, we've seen, I think the first couple of weeks of our campaigns have been littered with cases of violence across board. What does that mean to women participation? What does that mean to women participation as politicians, as contesting candidates, but also as those who would love to listen to the messages of the candidates and make a choice depending on the manifestos, depending on what the candidate has to offer. We've seen the interactions between candidates and the female constituency or the women constituency. We had a candidate who offered underwears to women. There are gender lenses to that. When they give women gomeses, when they give women usables, what does that mean? How does that impact their decision making? But when you make politics very expensive in terms of costs, how does that close the spaces, the opportunities for women to participate? As we know, the access to resources in Africa, across board, even in Uganda specifically, is a challenge. So, and women do not necessarily have control to resources, do not necessarily have control and access to these resources. So how does that affect or impede their participation in the process? There have been allegations of sextortion in our politics. How women are also sexualized. For example, I've seen comments being made about women when they contest, instead of looking at what they have to offer in terms of their capabilities, in terms of their abilities, in terms of their manifesto, in terms of their credentials, they look at their appearance. It's more about how do they appear, how do they appeal to the masses, the physical attributes. That is what I call the sexualization of women. How does that affect women participation? All those are dimensions of the cost of being a female politician. And these are conversations I want us to have with the seasoned politicians who are participating in politics, who have been politicians. What are the experiences and how do we navigate these challenges? Because at the end of it all, we need women to be in these spaces. We need women as leaders. We need women as people who make decisions. We need women. If men can do it, women can do it. And in some cases, women can do it better than men. So we need to level the ground. We need to create the right environment for women to participate in politics. We've seen countries that have had female politicians, including female leaders at the helm. That's quite commendable, but can we have more numbers? Already in Uganda, at least, the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament is a very good example, also sets the bar high for women to be in those spaces that were predominantly spaces occupied by men. So this conversation, indeed, I think it's timely now that we are into 2021. How do we support women to really meaningfully participate in these spaces, to really meaningfully become leaders that we stand in? So you'll join this conversation. I'm already seeing comments coming through that the economic position on women in patriarchal society makes it difficult for them to identify financing options for electoral processes. Yes, that is very true. Thank you, Eddie. So join the conversations. Join us all our platforms, social media platforms, Facebook, ACFIM. You can join us on that conversation. You can join us at ACFIM on Twitter, Uganda, at ACFIM UG on our YouTube account, so that we can have this conversation. Like I said, we will be joined by, they are running late, but they should be joining us. Our two guests, Flavia, Kalule, Nabagabe. She's been in politics for over five years, I think. She has been a member of parliament. She's contesting actually for member of parliament, Nabagabe District. No, she's contesting for woman MP Kassanda District under the NUP, under the NUP party. She's the flag bearer, but she's contested for female member of parliament in Mubende district in 2016, and she was the runner-up. So she'll be joining us. She holds a master's in arts and human rights from Makerere University, and she's been very passionate on women's civil rights and their rights to participate in politics. So she has been at the forefront on fighting social injustice, fighting corruption, and she is an accomplished development practitioner who focuses on promoting gender equality and decision making. So I think we have the right person to have these discussions. Firstly, she's a candidate, but she's also a human rights activist. And when you talk about issues of when we talk about issues of effective participation of women in political processes, because the cost of being a female politician partly touches the impediments, touches human rights aspects of participation. I think Flavia is the right person to have this discussion with. But also we shall be having Sarah Babirye Kityo. She's also a politician. She's an elected youth representative for Central Region in Uganda's 10th Parliament. She's a member of NRM, and she ran on that ticket. She's also a graduate of Bachelor of Public Admin and Management from Uganda Christian University. She is currently running for Bukoto East seat or constituency for the 2021 parliamentary elections. So it would be good to have these, to have their side of the story, their experiences. How has it been easy for them to contest? What are the challenges? What do they have to navigate? Why is it more difficult for them compared to fellow men who are equally competing for parliamentary seats? How are they navigating these challenges? What lessons can we draw from their experiences? So they will be joining us anytime soon from now. And I will also be allowing or giving options for some of our online viewers to directly join in via our link and make these contributions. I saw a comment from Eddie Kainda, and Eddie Kainda, if you can access that link, that would be good, so that you can also you can join in briefly. And I know you've done a study in that direction, which looked at the which had elements of female participation or women participation in politics, how they are affected. So it would be good to share those insights with you as well. If you can access that link, that would be great. But the conversation is soon is still ongoing. Anytime the guests will be joining us, but as they join us, allow me to share the snippets of this discussion. We want to, and we are really going to focus more on the challenges surrounding being a female candidate. I know that there are already challenges surrounding contesting as a candidate, but when it comes to the gender-specific challenges, I think women have unique challenges that come with the territory of their gender, especially, as I alluded to, the patriarchal society, the constructions of society about women and the places they put women into, the perceptions about women being in leadership, how culture disadvantages women, both as candidates but also as participants in the electoral process, how access to resources disadvantages women, the fact that the most women are economically vulnerable, they don't have access to resources. So how does that compromise them? But also there are discussions around political parties, the internal processes, how those internal processes disfavor women participation. I think ACFIM has had a discussion on this matter when it comes to the internal party processes and how they are not gender cognizant of how they do not necessarily take into consideration the gender intonations. For example, there are political parties that ring-fence certain positions for men at a disadvantage of women. There are also political parties that do not necessarily support female candidates. How this makes women vulnerable to people who just want to exploit them. There have been a lot of discussions around sextortion, how women have been exploited sexually because they are looking for campaign financing, because they're looking for favors. What does this mean? How does this look out women participation? How does this compromise? But even the cost of maintaining being a female MP. Now, as opposed to a constituency MP, a female MP has a bigger constituency to cover when it comes to campaigning. So you will find that you will have, because he's representing the entire district, he has to move across the entire district compared to an MP for a constituency who will just move across the entire constituency. So already the cost of campaigning for a district woman representative is higher than that of a constituency MP. That's already is a disadvantage to the women. But I also earlier talked about how society still sexualizes women, and instead of looking at what they have to offer, probably they look more at their outlook, their features. How does this now play against the aspirations, against the drive and the move to increase women participation in politics? All those are the costs we are talking about. Those are the costs we are counting. What are the challenges when it comes to fundraising for resources to campaign? When, especially if you're a female candidate, we would want to hear those experiences from our panelists who will be joining us very soon. But also there are what we call the unforeseen challenges women politicians face in a commercialized electoral politics. Many of them probably join without necessarily knowing exactly what the context or terrain is like. And when they get there, they realize that there are those unique challenges that come with the gender, with the fact that they are female, the fact that they are women, that makes their participation more intricate, more challenging than the male gender. Some of them are not prepared for these unforeseeable challenges. Would want to know from their experiences so far if they have encountered some of these unforeseen challenges. It would also be good for us to understand why that despite the affirmative action in place, why hasn't this translated into having more women empowered to move away from being members of parliament on the district women representative ticket to now directly competing with men in the direct constituencies? Because the MPs that have continuously competed on the ticket of district women representative. Yet the idea was that as more come in, they get empowered, then they leave the space, then others fill that space. So you have more empowered to now compete directly. It doesn't seem to be working that way. Why is it failing? Why are we failing to achieve on the increase in numbers in that direction? It would be also good for us to have a discussion on how practical challenges, how we can overcome these challenges. How can we increase women participation in elective politics, especially as candidates? How can we grow these numbers? What can be done realistically? And then probably talk about the whole notion of sexualizing politics, and then the sextortion as a barrier of women politicians in politics. So I know Flavia is trying to log in, and I hope she can succeed so that we can get this conversation going. But I also know at some point, yes, I think Eddie, it's good to have you. Can you hear me, Eddie? Eddie, can you hear me? As we wait for Flavia, it's good. Let's bring in one of our online viewers who has also participated in one of the studies that partly touched the elements that look out women participation. Eddie, can you hear me? You're most welcome. Eddie, are you there? Eddie, can you use your headset? Eddie, can you use your headset? Okay, I think it's trying to log in as well. Yes, please join in this discussion, join in this conversation. We can exchange some ideas here, experiences at different levels of from where you are, what do you see? From where you are, what do you read? What are you reading into how women are affected, positively and negatively, when it comes to participating in the electoral processes, especially, and here I want to look at mainly those who now come out to contest as candidates, because the effects are different. The effects are different from women who participate as voters, and also are different from women who participate as candidates. The challenges of those who participate as voters are a bit unique to the constituents of being a voter. I know for a fact that even when it comes to voter inducement, it has taken what we call the gender perspectives. Yes, Eddie, are you back? Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you, Felix.
Yes, Eddie, you're most welcome. This is Eddie Kainda. Like I talked to earlier, we'll be allowing some of our online guests to join us to share their insights. And Eddie, let me just quickly throw a question at you. I know for a fact that you've conducted a study, been part of a study that looked at the gender perspectives of women participation in electoral democracy. What were some of those findings that speak to this discussion of the cost of being a female politician in Uganda?
Thank you, Felix. For purposes of our viewers, we know that politics in Uganda is still a male-dominated field, and there are few women entering into political spaces, majorly because of factors associated with cost of running electoral races. In the study we conducted, we have realized that there are fewer women that are entering into electoral races, majorly because the cost is exorbitant. When you look at the economic position of women in Uganda, women are economically advantaged in terms of access to economic resources, but also in terms of business. And the fact that the political socialization in Uganda still rhymes with money, and given the position of women, it is extremely very difficult for them to identify sources of electoral financing. And as a result of that, we see very insignificant percentage of women participating in electoral processes, according to the study. For example, we realized that in the study, out of the 615 women, MPs that are contesting for direct MP seats, only about 24 are women. Had it not for affirmative action, where we have district women representation at parliamentary level, would barely see less women in races. On average, for example, an MP spends about, contestant at MP position spends about between 500 to 800 million shillings, depending on where that person is, either in the western or eastern or northern. Now, ideally, that money is extremely very high for any woman to afford to contest for an electoral process. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie, for that. You mentioning some figures. For one to access a political office, you need a minimum. You said a minimum of about 500 million Uganda shillings, and the bigger question is that how many women can access 500 million Uganda shillings to contest, for example, for the parliamentary seat, for that matter. given the fact that the economic setup of Uganda and Africa at large is that majority of women do not have access to resources, they don't have access to assets, and again, it partially touches the patriarchal society that we are in. So in that case, where is the place of political parties in supporting and increasing women, the numbers of women in politics? What can political parties do in this case to support women?
I can't hear well.
I'm saying that the figures you've presented, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but I said 500 to 800 million.
Yes, 500, 800 million. And the question was that we know very well for a fact that very few women have access to such resources, given the economic and given the economic, social, and cultural setup. Now, and this is where I throw in the question of political parties. What is the role of the political parties in this case in trying to support women internally to access resources and allow them or enable them to participate in the electoral politics significantly?
You know, in Uganda, first of all, political parties are weak. In a multi-party dispensation, ideally, political parties are supposed to support candidates that either flag bearers or candidates that stand for those political parties in terms of financing their electoral processes. But in the Uganda's political context, political parties are weak, and they cannot internally generate resources to finance candidates at different levels. When, for example, NRM in Uganda is the mass party, and you realize that this party contributes a minimum of about 20 million shillings to each candidate that stands as a flag bearer at various levels, either at MP level or at district women representation or at LC5. Now, 20 million shillings compared to the 500 or the 800 I've just told you is barely too insignificant for to allow a person participate in an electoral process. But secondly, whereas we are running a multi-party.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Flavia, are you there? Can you hear us? Flavia, can you hear us?
Dispensation of an individual initiative.
Hello, how are you?
Okay, all right, Flavia, you're most welcome. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Good, good. Eddie, hold it there. I'm going to come back to you now that we have Flavia who has just joined us.
Members of the political system within which they participate, allow them finance elections. Am I there?
Okay. Okay, Eddie, just hold it there. I'm going to come back to you shortly. Just stay online because we've been joined by Flavia, and I want to quickly throw in a couple of questions, Flavia. Flavia, you're most welcome to Active Talks. We've been waiting for you for the last 20 minutes. It's good to have you here.
Sorry. Thank you so much, and sorry about that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good you finally managed to make it. Quickly, how is the campaign going? How is it so far?
Well, the campaign is tough. It's tight, but we are managing. We are left with just a month too, and so it's difficult. The period is getting more difficult. It's getting more complicated. The pressure is building, and also you don't want to miss any time right now. So it's extremely tight, but we are managing.
You're managing. Indeed, you'll manage. As far as I know, you are currently contesting for Woman MP Kassanda District, right?
Yes, please.
I wish you all the best. Now, quickly, let's dive deep into the discussions we are having right now on the cost of being a female politician. First of all, why is it, because this discussion has been ongoing for long, and it's clearly, I want to pick the experience of already a female politician. Why is it
Yeah.
so difficult for women politicians to contest in politics? Not only in Uganda, but in Africa generally. Why is it so difficult? What are those challenges?
Well, thank you very much. And I really want to appreciate Eddie, who has been taking on the conversation and responding to some of the things. I know that politics worldwide is extremely messy and tough, but it becomes more messier and tougher for women who are trying to engage in it. I start by apologizing. My camera has failed to work. I don't know why, but I hope that I can be heard really well. So I'll just go by that.
You're very clear. Proceed.
Um, my name is Flavia Nabagabe. I'm currently contesting as the woman member of parliament for Kassanda District, located in the central region of Uganda, under the National Unity Platform party ticket, whose symbol is the umbrella. I am also currently the chairperson of the Women League of the National Unity Platform, Stroke People
Wow.
Power Movement. So I know that democratic governance is the hallmark of building vibrant, sustainable democratic systems in our society. And of course, given that Article 33 of the 1995 Uganda Constitution clearly stipulates it that women shall have the right to equal treatment with men, and that right shall include equal opportunities in the political, economic, and social activities, which is the basic benchmark for women's participation in decision making, especially in politics in Uganda. Currently, we have around 35% of the national parliament comprising just women, and we have 41% of sub-county and town council leadership comprising of only women, which is evidence that has proven that we have lower numbers of women in parliament, and so we need more women in leadership. We need more women in local government positions to amplify our voices, but also ensure that key priorities for women and girls are delivered at all times. I know civil society organizations have helped us so many times, including one of the organizations I used to work with, the Forum for Women in Democracy, to and have played a really critical role in equipping women with leadership and civic skills to build them to be able to contest in different angles. But the reality is that while we have these numbers, while we have these figures, while we have an increased number of women in leadership and politics, uh, in comparison to before, where we hardly had, I know at the time of the 1995 constitution making, there were about 40 women or in parliament, about 40 or 35. The Miriam Matembes, the Winnie Byanyimaz, there were really fewer. And so they provided for that affirmative action framework to be able to increase the numbers of women in politics. But while we have them now, because every district now provides a woman member of parliament, so that means we have 100 and currently we have 146 districts, but before it was 113 women members of parliament that we had in parliament. We also have only women on the direct seats that are just 19 in this current parliament that we have, just 19 out of the over 459 positions that are in parliament currently. So you find that we still have extremely fewer numbers of women. Some of the challenges that have hindered women from engaging more actively in politics, of course, we'll start with the patriarchal setting, the societal construct in which we live, which renders men more affirmed to becoming leaders in vis-a-vis women being leaders. So you find that when a woman is born, a girl child is born, right from the onset, we are celebrating the things, the property, the items, because here in Buganda we have a common saying that Zadeka Skali, literally translated into you have given birth to property, or you have given birth to sugar, or items that are usually that are tagged to women's being and existence and birth. And yet when you give birth to a boy child, the first comment people will say, ozadde omukumi, ozadde omukulembeze, ozadde, you know, ekyobusika ebyobugaga. So you find that literally your people are praising the boy child as you have given birth to you have given birth to a leader, you have given birth to security, you have given birth to an heir. So all those connotations in one way or the other are the ones that are guide how the different gender is brought up, you know, and accepted into society. So some women still see themselves as not leaders and are not capable of leading because of that. Because as you're bringing up a girl child, you're basically preparing them for a home, for marriage, you know, you're preparing them to be caretakers of families and of communities, but not in the leadership aspect, but in the caretaking and motherly aspect. So while you're taking care of a boy child, you're telling them you have to be able to lead your family. You have to be able to look for the money. You have to be able to hustle it out, find solutions to problems and all that. So you find that right from the onset, our society has led to this imbalance because we cannot easily get the numbers of women increasing when we still have people who believe that women cannot lead. In the communities where I come from, where we have the direct seats, the direct seat in Bukuya constituency, one of the constituencies I take in Kassanda District, we have under the National Unity Platform a woman called Babirye who is contesting, who we gave our flag to, is contesting for a direct seat. But oftentimes I have to constantly ask, respond to the challenge, the question and the challenge of, are you contesting with Babirye? Because for them, they see she's a woman and I am a woman, so we should be contesting under the same position, which is the women's seat, as it is commonly referred to. Most people believe all women should be contesting on the women's seat. So I have to constantly explain to them that no, she is on the direct seat. And then they keep asking me, isn't that seat for men? I tell them, no, it is not for men only. It can be contested for and by anyone, except that most women prefer to contest under the affirmative action seat, which is the women's seat only. So even that concept that is within the community and the society, most people believing that the direct seats are for only men and the affirmative seats are the only seats for women, including local government where women believe that only their seats are for the women councillors and they cannot go for direct seats because even in the direct seats in the local government, we have very few women there. I know for a fact that Uganda, out of its 100 plus districts, we only have 3 women who are the chairpersons of districts. Only 3 in the entire country. And you look at Kole, you look at, so I think it was Kanungu, and then there's another district in the northern region that have only women who are the district chairpersons. So you find that there's still a huge gap of women representation in politics. Yet we know that women are largely comprised of the population in Uganda, with 52% of them. And we also know that as long as we have fewer women in politics, in decision making, women's issues will constantly remain low, poorly represented, and it is a far cry from achieving gender equality.
Yeah, yes,
So,
Flavia, quickly. There's a point I don't want to lose here. You've raised an issue around the having fewer women on direct seats across.
yeah.
And I know for a fact that one of the arguments in support for the affirmative action, especially looking at the district women representative, looking at those positions that were ring-fenced for women to increase participation, was to ensure that they are empowered, so that when they are empowered enough, they can now also compete with fellow men. Then they can create space for others to come and fill that space, so that numbers gradually grow. There have been arguments that probably this has failed to achieve its intended objective. Why is it? Because I've seen people contesting for this for women's seats continuously, yet they have been empowered enough to now go and compete with men on direct seats. Why are we in that situation?
Well, I would say that we are in that situation for a number of reasons. The first reason is, you see, patriarchy is deeply embedded in our communities.
Mm. Yes.
That's for a fact. So even when women become credible leaders in this community, let me just give an example of Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, who is the current Speaker of Parliament. She has been on that affirmative action seat for as long as I can remember. But most the time when she felt like shifting from the affirmative action seat to go to a direct seat, she faced a huge backlash from people who were saying, especially from the men, being men and women who believed that that position was known for what? For the women. It was meant for the men. That is one of the biggest pitfalls we have in communities, especially because there's a huge gap in the. I mean, gender blind electoral data really does
Mm.
exist.
Mm.
People
Mm.
do not give us the real figures and people do not give us the real experiences. But also, every woman has tried to cross over from the affirmative action seat to go to the direct seat, comes up with their own story. They will tell you that they can easily be accepted on the women's seat and they can't be accepted on the men's seat because they believe it is a male seat. So even the Electoral Commission and different civil society organizations have to come out and clarify on these positions as clearly as possible because the community does not know that these seats are open seats. But also, when you're competing against women and when you're competing against men, economically speaking, it's a whole different arena because research has confirmed that men have deeper pockets in
Mm.
comparison to the women in terms of possession of money. And,
Mm.
and so much as it's a smaller constituency, what you inject in is far outreaching than what a woman MP injects into a community on their seat um, because I have seen it. My colleagues who are on constituency seats, the demands are extremely too many. Everyone believes that they have to give them. You have to pay everyone's fees. You have to do this.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
also, much as this also disadvantages the woman on the affirmative action seat. But the demands from me are not as many because there's this sympathy that she has a whole district to cater to.
Mm.
She
Mm.
cannot cater
Mm.
to everyone as effectively as the other side, which is also a disadvantage for the women in politics. Because if you have a whole district, then you can't effectively represent a whole district unless when you're Flavia Kalule, who is extremely balanced, who is
Mm.
extremely, up with the challenges and extremely vocal and can ably represent each sector. And, also it takes a little bit of organizing for you to represent a whole district, being organized. So that is also one of the deepest issues that we have there. But also, we have the fear. Most women fear competing against the men, and this is normal. We have tried talking about it. We have tried to do certain things about it. We have tried to uh, call on women to overcome the fear, but it's a natural fear. We don't know. There are fewer women that have broken that glass ceiling and have been able to contest on affirmative on direct seats and have been able to do it extremely well. So in all these positions, it takes some individual courage, it takes a lot of sensitization, but also it takes a lot of work with the media because the media usually portrays women politicians in a negative angle. Because if we had extremely more media coverage for women, take an example right now. We have Nancy Kalembe who is contesting for president, for the position of
Mm.
president of this country. Most of the times when the media is covering the different presidential candidates. They mainly cover the men. It's very rare that they will cover Nancy Kalembe and bring to us what her trail is like, where she has been, what her message is. When the media is covering the women, they will cover certain controversial issues. Is she married or not? What
Aha.
was she wearing at
On
that time?
just
And
a
these are
minute.
the things that are coming up. They rarely pick out the key messages. They'll pick out sexist messages that from her
Thank you.
communication,
And I
you
was
know.
coming to that. I was coming to that because, and I like the fact that you've now taken me to that direction. One of the biggest challenges, and gladly you put it so because you've given an example of Nancy Kalembe, one of the challenges that I know most women have been facing is what I've called the sexualizing of women in politics. And I wanted to find out how real this is, how grave is it, how does this now impede women participation? Women looking at you not according to what they think you can offer, your capabilities, your record, your experience, but they look at you sexually. But also, as you answer that question, also help us understand the discussions around the sextortion, because, for example, I remember in one of the papers that I was reading during the vetting process of NOOP, there were allegations of sextortion, and I know this is not unique to just the political party NOOP, but this is a problem across the fabric society of Uganda. How do these now play out to affect women participation? From your experiences?
Yeah, thank you so much, Felix. And this is a very interesting subject. I have had conversations around on several occasions. And much as I get, and I tell people I get tired of talking about this sexualization of women in politics, we cannot hide away from it because it is a reality. It's with us. It was with us way before we joined politics. You talk to very prominent women who will tell you this happens to them even in their extremely prominent positions and powerful positions. And so we have to find a solution to this. I know it comes deeply from our community, but also it has it has other factors that facilitate it. For example, the insensitive and sexist coverage or limited coverage of the women leaders by the media, which has been noted on several occasions that has a negative effect on women's participation in politics. So yeah, most people, and I had the what you had is what I had as well, in different political parties, not just NUP, but I'll speak about NUP for now that it was happening. Yes, I know I got some cases that were reported to me, and we handled those cases in their uniqueness as they came to me as the woman leader there. And I'm telling you that as NUP, we have no nonsense policy, and uh, which we have, which I developed personally with a number of other women helping me to be able to counter, to be able to curb and be able to reduce the sexualization of women who are in politics, and not just women candidates, but we have, as NUP, we have a younger population and following. And as NUP, we have so many young women that have come up to participate in politics in different ways. They are not candidates, but they are agents. They are helping us take on different roles. They are playing so many other roles. But this came out because when you have so many young people in an organization or in a political party, it's bound to happen. But also, this doesn't mean that the older generation doesn't experience it. As a woman leader who has worked extensively with women politicians, both in local government and parliament, this has been one of the biggest challenges every woman leader will talk about. But I think for us, reducing women to sexual objects or to objects of entertainment in newspapers during general elections like now, it diminishes our visibility and branding and outreach, because then you can't explain your points fully to someone and they understand them when they are just looking at you. I'll use an example of the late Princess, no, of Princess Bagaya. You know, Princess Bagaya was the first minister in Amin's government, but she was a model at the time. At the same time, she was doing her private work as a model, modeling with her modeling agency. But when she became a minister, the media decided to pull out her photos of her modeling in swimsuits and all that. And those were the pictures they would always constantly use. So now you have a person in that powerful position, and whenever you're trying to bring out a message that she has talked about, the image that you're bringing in is clearly different from the message she was communicating. So then people chose to see her as uh, chose to see her physically and not mentally, and that is the challenge we have even up to now. So I think for me, the media plays a huge role, and they need to cover women and represent women leaders in their constituencies with solidity, with more visibility, with more platforms, and not just I have come across areas where I contested in 2016, And some of the agents that I had that I was moving with would clearly tell me, hey, Flavia, they would make sexual connotations like either your boobs are so firm or you're so beautiful in case someone slept with you. Like some of those comments. And they wouldn't even fear telling me these things, knowing that I was contesting for MP, knowing that I was a women's rights defender. Now, it was upon me to clearly put them in their positions and tell them, I will not accept this on this campaign trail. I will not take lightly these comments. So it has to be a strong, firm affirmation that comes out so as a candidate, you find yourself, you're always caught up between pleasing the constituency, what they want, because as a woman, they tell you, one of the things that is going to earn us votes, and you shouldn't fear this, are your looks. So maximizing your look. Then the other thing is your body. Allow people to touch you, allow people to hug you, anyone. So even in the process, as you're hugging, men's hands are stretching all the way to your butt, all the way to very improper touching.
Yes, yes. Wow. Wow. This conversation is getting interesting.
And for me, I kept telling them, no, I will not allow this. If it's going to ruin our vote, let it ruin it. But I'm not going to allow anyone to we don't get men who are just touched improperly by women when they are hugging women. I mean, do the men even hug male politicians? I just see them doing handshakes. How come they cannot allow women to do handshakes? And even in this extremely COVID-19 pandemic environment that we are in, men will still insist, I want to hug you. And you're telling them, no, you're not going to hug me today because of ABCD, and they'll say Kalule kafude. And so you see, these are some of the challenges that to explain their marital positions in a campaign. So we lose out on so many women who are able-bodied, who are strong, who have the voice, the power, and the agency, but simply because they are not married, no one wants to look at them as a leader. And yet in communities, it's not the women who look for the marital partners in our community. We are not the ones who are marrying the men. You wait for the man to come tell you whatever they tell you. If you accept the man, you end up getting married. If you don't, then you don't. But now society has put it upon women to first be in a relationship, to first get married before they are, before they are taken on as leaders. I know of some, I cannot mention names, but I know of some women who are politicians who moved into parliament as either younger MPs or so and so. And because they are taking on now a woman representation role, they wanted to get married to some people that they didn't even know, and it took me to talk to them to tell them, no, you cannot do that. Are you in love with this person? Do you know this person? How long have you been with this person? In order for them to to accept it, that they can contest when they are not married, and their message will be heard, and they will be given votes by what they are delivering and what they are promising, and not on their marital status. But also, I know of so many women who are in relationships, violent, extremely violent relationships, that have come to me, and I have advised them to vacate those relationships. Because when you're in a violent relationship, as the women's rights defender, I'll first tell you to safeguard your life, to move away from the point of violence, so that we can be able to help you. But they have told me, no, I cannot leave this relationship, because the moment I leave this relationship, I am going to lose this local government council seat, because the community will laugh at me. I am not married. I don't have anyone. I don't have a home. And so these are some of the extremely limitations, the big limitations that women are facing on an everyday basis.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, now 2 last questions. You realize that I'm allowing you to really share uninterrupted, but 2 last questions, because our time is running fast spent and the conversation is really getting interesting. I encourage our online viewers to join us in the discussion. You can just type or text your message or comment to what Flavia is sharing with us today. One question is about your experience when it comes to fundraising for resources to campaign resources. What is your because I know when it comes to women fundraising for these resources, there are gender dynamics, there are gender challenges. That is my first question. And I also, as you discuss it, also put into perspective how do political parties then help women when it comes to accessing resources for campaigning. And the last question will be more about what can we do? How can we move away from these barriers that are affecting female participation as candidates in the political process and increase the numbers gradually.
Hello? Felix,
Flavia,
unfortunately, I didn't get your last question. Yes, but I didn't get your last question due to some interaction.
My last question was about the whole component of fundraising for resources, women access to campaign resources. What are your experiences when it comes to accessing campaign money, for example, to contest? And also, as you discussed that, I want to see how political parties help out in helping women access finances for campaigning. And then my last question is more about what can we do? What are the practical remedies? What are the practical solutions to increase female participation in politics? As we close the discussion, yes.
Thank you very much, Felix. So one, I have had an extremely difficult time fundraising for my campaigns because personally, I was supposed to have gone through a by-election in 2018, but because the government feared the people power movement, they decided to extend my election till now and pushed me to the general election. So my district hasn't had the woman representation in parliament from 2017 when the district was divided from Mubende district. So because people got tired of my campaign, it became extremely difficult for me to fundraise. But one of the avenues that I used for fundraising, I went through friends, I went through family, I went through workmates, different organizations I'm affiliated to and different entities. And I was campaigning before as an independent. Now I'm campaigning as a political party under the National Unity Platform. So ideally, political parties should be assisting some candidates to finance their campaigns. And under NUP, we tried as much as we could, but given that we are a new party that wasn't fully registered up to very late, so we couldn't access political party finances given by the iPod because we are extremely new and late. We came into the picture extremely late. So we have done a lot of our fundraising individually, but also as a party, asking people. The diaspora has helped us a lot to fundraise. Our people here have sent in some little monies that have helped us to fundraise. So what we did, especially for the candidates, most of our candidates, was to contribute something to their nomination fees, which we are able to do. As the Women League, I was able to highlight some of the women that had failed to raise nomination fees, so we are able to boost them up in one way or the other. And I'm glad that at least we were able to cover a bigger percentage of those who had chosen to stand contest under the National Unity Platform under their flag. We are able to support them there. We haven't done much for them currently because of the under-resourcing that we have, but we try to help them, especially psychologically. We put up a counseling and guidance situation center at our office for the women because we know that so many women are the biggest violence that they are faced with is emotional and psychological violence. So most of the time on a daily basis, we are able to reach out to them and speak to them and respond to some of their needs. Now, personally, on a personal note, I have fundraised, and fundraising is a continuous process. I have used a lot of money, but also I have seen so many people coming in to help me. Like someone who every shilling counts in an election, even 100 shilling counts. So people send me fuel on a daily basis, 10,000, 3,000, 30,000, 2,000. I have had some of my agents giving me money, you know, when I'm going to move into their constituencies, they say I'm sending you 50,000 for fuel within my area, within my sub-county. And for me, my campaign has been owned a lot by individuals. I am one of the few candidates who is not asked for money when I am campaigning.
Wow.
And the moment someone asks for soda, the community, the members will tell them immediately, "Onte tumusaba sente." We do not ask for money from this particular candidate. This one is going to be our voice. This one is doing ABCD for us. So, but it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of trust, building trust between you and the citizenry, because my campaign has been extremely long. I have been in their faces. Every time I'm talking on radio, wherever I'm talking in communities, I'm talking about the disadvantage and why citizens shouldn't be demanding for money from their leaders. Instead, they should be asking critical questions from their leaders so that they can be able to get. It takes a lot of civic education, and I have been doing that because I'm a civic educator. So I guess that's
Okay.
why I can comfortably say that I have run a campaign on almost a zero budget, and
Okay.
have been able to
Interesting.
move, because when I am leaving my home, I don't move with money to give out to the community. I move with money to fuel my car. I move with money to fuel to support my agents. I move with money for my visibility, materials. I don't move with money to go and buy soda or mwingi or whatever. I don't do that. And they know it. And they keep on saying, ono tagaba mwingi, tagaba soda, naye tugenda mulonda. And I
That
think for
is
me, that mindset is what we need to have in
that
our
that's really
communities.
that's really a very good mindset. Okay, quickly, what can we do to increase numbers to remove those barriers of female participation?
So one, we need to continuously sensitize our members on the position of women's leadership in communities, because so many people are still unaware of what the role of a female politician is. But also, I was so surprised. People don't even know what a member of parliament does. They think what a direct member of parliament does is totally different from what a woman MP does. It's so funny that people don't have this information. Most people keep saying that Zesiron and Amchala, I don't know, I've never voted for a woman MP because I don't even know what they do. I don't even know who votes that woman MP who is supposed to do that. So there's a lot of gender blind data that is within our community. So we need to be able to do what? To be able to continuously sensitize communities
Right.
on the role of female MPs, but also continuously sensitize them on what the constituency for a woman MP is, who votes for that MP. I'm always doing this wherever I go. I have to first start with a woman MP is voted by everyone in the district, men and women, all that information. You have to give it to them so that they can know, because they don't know it totally. Then we also have to continuously sensitize communities on the direct seat position vis-a-vis the woman MP, the affirmative action seats, because people don't know that women can choose to contest under the direct, either local government, direct councillor, or direct MP. They don't know it. So their roles and the constituencies also, we need to do that. But also we need to continuously amplify women's leadership positions and their roles. We have to constantly get role models as women that have held that torch high for us, and be able to share it with other people, share those experiences with other people. Because if we have more role models, more mentors in there, then it shows that women have moved this journey before us, and these are women who have held their positions and have impacted communities differently. And society has proved that once a woman is in that position, especially when they are passionate about what they are doing, their influence and impact is higher in comparison to the others. Given that women's representation area is larger compared to the men's, women have a more responsibility, and so that means that we have to we have to critically look at their financing, but also even their salaries. I know the conversation has come up on a number of occasions in Parliament on whether women should earn a bigger salary in comparison to their male counterparts, both at local government and in Parliament. And this is one of the conversations that has been shushed and has been swept under the rug for so many reasons, obvious reasons, definitely. But you can also see that if I am covering a constituency of 15 sub counties, 92 parishes, and someone is covering a constituency of 4 sub counties with just 30 parishes or 20 parishes, it can't be the same. And even the financing can't be the same, because I am covering a larger constituency. I am bound to incur more costs. So even in terms of service provision, I am bound to do more, because members of parliament are the basic service providers in communities.
Yes.
A narrative that needs to change as well in communities through civic education and electoral education. So yeah, that. But also we need to put up support networks for women's representation, for women who are in politics. Recently, we had an example of Honorable Sylvia Rawogo, who had a sexual encounter, sexual harassment encounter with a younger man. But even the way the media portrayed this, they turned it as if Kiko was the victim and not,
And it's played
because
against in the primaries.
yeah, we have really normalized sexualization of women. We have normalized women as sexual objects. It is a common narrative for women who are victims of sexual harassment and of violence to be, to be pushed into the position of perpetrator. So we need to have a whole conversation as a country on some of these critical issues. But
Oh,
I think we need to get and this is one thing I'm pushing in the NOOP. And I know that after elections, when we are not all looking for canvassing for votes and are building our structures and are building our political party, it is something I am pushing for, to have a women's fund within the political party to support the women leaders that we have, so that we can easily help them. But also to try to encourage women to be more economically independent through different channels, because politics is highly monetized. You can't hold your ground on your own in politics if you don't have a different resource envelope. But to
sure.
discourage women from sleeping with men just for sexual favors, just to be able to fund their campaigns. Because either way, you will sleep with him and he will not give you the money. These cases have also come up. So there's a lot of sexual exploitation there, and due to economic challenges.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much, Flavia, for being part
Yeah.
of this conversation. Allow me, our time is fast spent. I'm giving you just 1 minute for you to wrap it up, and I'll also give Henry Kainda 1 minute for the final word, and I'll be out of here in the next 2 minutes. One word, final word, Flavia.
Yeah, my final word is that it's only when women have full access to decision-making positions that, with the laws, the policies, the budgets, that we can easily be able to respond to the women's needs and concerns. And so I encourage as many women as possible to attain higher education so that they can be qualified to participate in some of these positions, but also to break the fear that they have so that they can be able to engage freely and freely in those positions in the different democratic governance processes that we have, so that we can deliver and to the women of this country, but also to the country at large. Because if I am an MP, a woman MP in Kassanda District, I'm also going to be your MP, Felix, because I'm not only representing Kassanda, I'm representing
Sure, sure.
Uganda as a whole. So we need to have women that are firm, with voice, with the power and the agency to be able to make the decisions that are going to influence our communities better. Thank you very much, Felix.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Flavia.
for
It's
the
been
conversation.
beautiful hosting you. It's been a beautiful conversation. Eddie, are you there?
Yes, I just want to be an advocate for women for now.
Okay.
And tell men out there, please give women a chance to participate in electoral politics. But women must also stand up, be counted. We know the challenges are high in the democratic governance processes. Asking money is a challenge, but you must stand up, be counted. And for every woman that is out there in the 2021, we wish you the best in ensuring that you come up as a leader for the nation, but also for the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Eddie. That was Eddie Kainda, works with the Alliance for Campaign Finance Monitoring. But our guest we had today was Flavia Nabagabe, and she's currently running for Woman MP Kassanda District under the NOOP flag. The conversation, let's keep it going on our social media platforms, Facebook ACFIM and Twitter at ACFIMUG. And as of now, till next time, I remain yours, Felix Kafuma. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed weekend.
COVID-19 lockdown has left us poor. Money from candidates won't make you rich. Do not be desperate. Focus on issues, not money. Often money used in campaigns is dirty money. Do you know its source? Corruption, mafia, drug trafficking, human trafficking, theft from national budget, self-seeking foreigners, selfish businessmen, selfish money lenders. Don't abandon your duty. Elect quality leadership, not big spenders.